Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hit List Podcast, the show where Pokemon nostalgia meets today's collecting culture. I'm your host, Big Mike, and for the first time of many times, we have our Tuesday guest, Captain Jack of the Poke Post.
It's a pleasure to be here. Happy to hang out with you as always, Mike. Put a face to the voice, and gotta say, man, you're a lot more handsome than I am.
Oh, I don't know if
I'm
that's
feeling a little
true.
underprepared here.
I think what we're going to do is we're going to post on Tuesdays with Jack, and we're going to go over a lot of different things that are close to both Jack and I's heart. We're going to talk about the art. We're going to talk about things within the game. But today, our topic is going to be FOMO and making sure that everybody gets what they want at a reasonable cost and doesn't feel as if this hobby is straining them any form mentally or financially.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, I think especially in the times that we're at right now, I think it's very important to go over and accept that you're not going to get everything. And if you really truly want to do something like a master set, or you're trying to complete even a set that's been out for a little bit, really pushing singles over sealed as a method to do that is important, because the last thing we need is everybody going bankrupt, which is going to happen.
Yeah, I think so singles. So here's the thing, like I think a lot of people start to get stressed out and really overwork themselves when they see a new set drop and they see, oh geez, man, that gold Gardevoir is $900.
Right,
Or
especially
oh
when you're
man, you know,
especially, especially when you're seeing this new Mega Evolution set, and you're seeing these insane prices of the Lucario and the Gardevoir right away, which admittedly I do think these are the best golds we've had in a long time. And especially since they're different, I kind of understand it, but I think
But
we
when
have a lot of
people see that, they immediately go to, well, buying singles, I can't afford a $900 Gardevoir, so it makes sense for me to drop $300 on a booster box. But the reality is 2 weeks from now, that gold Gardevoir is probably going to be like a $300 card versus a $900 card, right? And then it may even go down more from there. And so really it's about being patient and playing the waiting game. And yeah, I know it's hard because everybody wants to feed into social media and all the clips and all of the openings, and everybody's opening it. I want to open it, Why do they get open it and I don't? I need to get some of this so I can open it and get some of these awesome new cards. But really, if you wanna enjoy the hobby to a point where you're not breaking the bank and you're not pissing yourself off by dropping $300 in a box that you pull maybe $30 of value out of, then you do just really have to be patient and understand there is an avenue for you to get the cards you want. It's just not going to happen overnight.
Yeah, I think one of the prime examples of that actually came when I first joined into the hobby here, when Stellar Crown dropped. If you remember, the Terapagos was sitting really, really high. And we're looking exactly a year later now at $40 all day.
Yeah.
And
The
honestly,
Hydreigon from Surging Sparks did the same
yeah,
thing. That Kirigawa artwork, dude, that was my chase for the set, and I was stressing about trying to pull that card, and now it's a $40 card.
right. And I, another thing I've realized over time is that if it happens to go the other way, where you think you're waiting for this card and it goes up a little bit, I think it's important to not stress about that as well, and not panic buy at that point either, because we do see cycles of up and down, not just down.
I was just talking to my sister about that last night because she was one of those people who really wanted the Magikarp from Paldea Evolved,
Mhm.
and we were talking about how that thing's like almost $400 now or whatever it is, craziness. And she was talking about how she regretted not picking it up back when she could have because she found one for like 150, I think it was, which is still like that's kind of pricey, right, for an illustration rare, but it is what it is, right? But we literally sat down and said the same thing to each other. Like, we both know this is cyclical, and that Magikarp will go back down, and then it'll go back up. You just have to be patient and buy it when you're ready to buy it, and make sure it's a time when you're comfortable to buy it. Don't put yourself in a position where you're pigeonholed into this obligation of having to pick up a card just because you're terrified it's going to go to like $400, $500. If it does, you probably don't need it that bad. It's a piece of cardboard, first of all.
Mhm.
Second of all, you're just going to have to be patient, and hopefully you can find something like through trades or through somebody else that you know and hook up with a store, or like you were saying, I think on your intro about going to to your local game store and just meeting people, meeting friends, learning about the community, going to streams, discords where you can find discords that have like trading options and meet people. Be like, does anybody have this card? I have duplicates of A, B, C, and D. I can offer for it. Just there's different ways to go about it. So don't hit the panic button just because a card hits $500, $400. Like you said, it is cyclical. You just have to find the right time to pull the trigger.
Absolutely. And I think that once you start to see some of these sets go out, that goes out the window a little bit, but also understanding that and getting the cards you really want before they come out is huge. But I mean, look at what happened. Oh, what was it? I'd say 6 months ago when the art rare hype really went crazy.
That was
It
in February. Yep.
Yeah, I think that was one of the first times I personally saw specific artists start to take a massive jump. Kamiya especially. I mean, we went from having the Paldea evolved Baxcalibur line go from being, uh, I mean, under $10 cards all the way up to what Baxcalibur go to 60 at one point.
Yeah. Um, it was pushed for me. The Drowsy's the big Kamiya card I remember.
Right.
It took off. And then it was interesting because then it was obvious manipulation because it tanked pretty quickly after there. And I think whoever went and tried to manipulate that Kamiya card really got it confused with Shinji Kanda and didn't even pay
Yeah.
attention to who the artist was and just thought it was another Magikarp style Shinji Kanda card and decided to
Hmm.
try and manipulate it. But clearly it wasn't Shinji Kanda, it was Kamiya. And they couldn't hold the value that they were trying to manipulate it to. Maybe they did for their own ends since they were maybe pump and dumping. I don't know. But that's what it felt like to me during that time period.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's a good point. I also wanted to bring up that Kondo went a little crazy at that point too. Not that it's not warranted, but it was an odd correlation that the
Yeah.
artworks were so similar. Um, Another example of these buyouts that's happening is right now the amount of Charizards that are being bought out
Yeah.
is absurd. Expected, but absurd. We're starting to see the promos from the UPC go from being $10 to $20 cards to pretty much all of them are 40 to 60 at this point.
Yep. Yep.
And
Which we all knew that would happen eventually with those promos. They're too good. They're Sword and Shield. They're too good to not. You just had to wait out the product scarcity, and then we knew they would shoot up. But to your point, you can also look at the Charizard from Obsidian Flames. That was like a $50 card for the longest time. Now it's over 100. Um, Even the Charizard from Shining Fates, the shiny one, that was sitting right around 100 for the longest time. It's now up to 150, 160. It's been climbing as well. So it's definitely it does this though every time a new Charizard drops, right? Because
Mhm,
I don't know if you remember, we were talking about pre-order singles a little bit earlier, but I don't know if you
mhm.
remember that Charizard from Obsidian Flames. When Obsidian Flames, before it dropped, and the pre-sale on that Zard was like $500 a pop before the set even dropped. It's the same
Right.
thing, and it dropped to $50, just like the Kirigawa Hydreigon, just like the Terapagos, just like we just talked about. Like, just another example, guys, of like, wait it out. You can get the cards you want, and they're awesome cards. You should want them, but you don't have to pay $500 out the gate to go get them.
Absolutely. And I think it's a very important part. And whether you're looking at it as investing or for yourself, to really embody the fact that if you like this card and you think it's a good price, buy it because at some point somebody else is going to think that same thing.
Yeah, if you think
Uh,
it, somebody else does, for sure. You're not the only one
right.
in the world that thinks a card looks awesome. That's what I told my brother when he first started collecting. Because I was like, dude, get the cards you want. You don't need to just chase the cards that are the hype chase cards of the sets just because they're, top tier or whatever. Like, get the ones that you vibe with and you mess with. And the chances are, if you vibe with it, then a lot of other people probably vibe with it too. There's a reason it's out on the shelf for sale because people want to buy it.
Absolutely.
And so don't worry about the value, guys. Value comes later. If you're in this hobby for money, you're gonna do it poorly. You're gonna do it wrong, and you're probably gonna lose a lot of money. Don't worry about value or any of that stuff. Collect what you want to collect. Collect what you like. The value will come later. Anything that you like, millions of other people like. So give it time. In due time, anything you pick up will gain its value. You just have to be patient.
What's your opinion on the current surge of stamped cards, whether it be the alternate art stamped cards from Build and Battle decks or the new current Cosmos Hollow stamped cards from Build and Battle decks, or we're going to go with the Cosmos Hollow GameStop and Best Buy exclusives? Do you think that's something that's maintainable, or do you think that's a current fad that's going to fade?
Um, yeah, so stamp promos. So the Pokemon Center stamp promos is where most of this started, right? Because that's like Pokemon Center exclusive. You know, it's interesting. The GameStop promos and stuff like that. There's like a Best Buy stamped Obsidian Flames. I want to say Espeon that has the
Mhm.
Obsidian Flames logo stamped on it.
I think it was a I think it was an Umbreon actually. I think the that was
So I think
from.
Umbreon was GameStop, but Best
Oh,
Buy
okay.
had Espeon, and that card right now it was like $2 a month ago, and now it's like a $15 card. You could probably still get it for like under 20 if you really want it. But it's it's something to me. It's like here's the thing with the stamp cards is people want them because they're unique and they seem like they're scarce. But the reality of the situation is if you're trying to pick up those stamp cards because you want to make money off them and you think there's a lot of value in them, the liquidity of those cards is not high because most people understand it's a common card just with a stamp on it. So if you're trying to make money off those cards, you're gonna have a hard time selling them. Just straight up, unless it's very niche, like the people that actually want to collect those for their collection and hang on to them. As far as my opinion on what's going on with the pre-release promo stamps and those all skyrocketing, it's hard to get into pre-release promos. I went to a Destin Rivals pre-release event. They canceled the second flight because they didn't have enough boxes. They went through them all in the first flight. I recently just went to the Mega Evolution pre-release event last weekend. We had 70 plus people there in the
That's
first flight.
incredible.
I've never seen that at a pre-release. I've seen like 30 people max. So it is tough to get those promos, and a lot of people that want those promos want them for their decks. They're players that want the stamped Meganium for their Venusaur deck or the stamped, Typhlosion for Ethan's Typhlosion deck from Destin Rivals. That's where a lot of that price hike stems from. Outside of that, I don't think it's anything that's going to be like super crazy. I know for a while there the stamp promos were like $20 a pop. I don't remember. Did one get higher than that? Did the Tyranitar or something get up to like 30 or something? I don't
I'm
remember.
not sure. I know Misty's Gyarados was at 30-ish and it dropped to about 20 and it's been holding there for a while, 20 to 25. I
See, that one's interesting because that's not a playable card, really.
Right.
No, you can play it, but it's not really playable. It is a Gyarados, though. Misty's Gyarados. Maybe that's it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think just because of that and because it didn't get that much attention, it didn't get an art rare, it didn't get anything like that. I think that was the best version of it. I think that's where that's at. But one of the things that I got to say I'm a little bit disappointed with those stamped promos is that they are no longer alternate art. They are just Cosmos
The
Hollow.
Mega Evolution ones were.
Oh, actually,
They
that's
brought,
wonderful.
yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't
they
know
brought
that.
it back. Yeah, the Meganiums by Uninori actually.
Oh,
Um,
that's
yeah, it's
awesome.
pretty sick. It was pretty cool. I got the Inteleon at my pre-release, but I went 3-0 like a champ. You know
Ooh, of
me.
course you
Big
did.
flex pre-release 3-0 baby. But yeah. Well, here's how you know how I went 3-0. I don't know if I told you this. I pulled
No.
a I pulled a Mega Kangaskhan, and so I just like basic Mega 300 HP, just 3 energy on that thing, just clean house. I just Mega Kangaskhan was my whole
Yeah,
deck. It was
absolutely.
silly.
Yeah, that would do it.
It was silly, man. But yeah, they did bring him back. Uninori did the Meganium. Destin Rivals, as far as I know, is the only and first time they did not have alternate art pre-release promos.
I wonder if it was just they got enough flack from from collectors saying that they didn't like this
Yeah, I
that
don't know. I think it may have also been they were rushed. They were rushing because they were like busy trying to reprint all the prismatic stuff, and so they didn't put a lot of effort into like changing out the print presses to put new art, and they just were like, just leave the old art, throw a stamp on it. I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know how much time it takes to do that. I don't know if that's a lot of effort for them or not. I don't know.
I don't know. I'd imagine, it's not necessarily any different than printing any other cards. They're probably on the same sheets as everything else. They just print a sheet and cut them. But I think when you're making an additional product of a specific made deck and then slapping that on top of it, that does slow the process down a little bit. So I kind of understand how maybe they really just wanted to be able to get Destin Rivals out, especially since, the focus of Destin Rivals is Team Rocket's cards, and we
Yeah,
haven't seen that in 20 years.
yeah, that's fair. I think so. Part of something I remember from your list that we wanted to talk about is the FOMO,
Yeah, of
and
course.
like the overhyping as new sets drop. So it's interesting because people feel like it's been this way forever because it has been like basically this entire year, but it wasn't that long ago. It was maybe about 8 months ago, November, December, when Surging Sparks dropped. And when Surging Sparks dropped, we were getting booster boxes for 120 a box
Hmm.
when that set first dropped. And then the prismatic thing, just everything went nuts with the prismatic thing. And then like Journey Together, a lot of people think that's a mid set, and it also still like went crazy. And there were $100 booster ETBs out there, and I don't know what the ETB or the booster boxes are at right now for Journey Together. But the big one for me is the Destined Rivals because it's a 2 month old set. Booster boxes are pushing $500 a box now
Hmm.
for a brand new set that just dropped. A lot of things driving FOMO for me right now. Destined Rivals is a big catalyst of that. And here's my reasoning behind that because it feels like Destined Rivals was short printed
It
because
does
it
feel that way.
was because it was in this awkward positioning between black and white and prismatic evolutions, right?
Hmm.
And Pokemon was pushing all these reprints of Prismatic out, and then they had to get all these black and white specialty ancillary products out, and then we got hit with Mega, and it just feels like Destined Rivals had this tiny little blip in the year, right, when it dropped in May, and if you didn't get it then, you just weren't going to get it. And so I don't know if Pokemon is going to. I can guarantee you right now there will be reprints of Destined Rivals. Those will come towards the end of the year. Um, but until then, I think Pokemon's focus is on pushing out the new meta cards for Mega. I think Pokemon knows what it did with Destin and knowing that most of those cards aren't really relevant in standard format. If you look at the list nowadays, a lot of it's Goldango, Gardevoir, Dragapult. You will not see very many Destined Rivals decks making top 16, top 8, any of that because they just aren't very good cards for the standard format. In the future, they might be. I hope they are because Mewtwo's my boy. I'd love to get out there and
Absolutely.
wreck shop with Mewtwo. But right now it's just not very good. And so a lot of what Pokemon's doing is they're shifting their focus to these wave releases with Mega Evolution, right?
Hmm.
So, for instance, you've got a ton of new mechanics with the Mega EXs first off, right? And whatever they're building with Mega Lucario, that's like the big deck right now out of Mega Evolution. Which, by the way, I have a single prize Alakazam deck I put in the Discord. I want you to check out. You'll love it, dude. You're gonna
Absolutely.
have a blast with it. But yeah, so they're doing these new wave releases, right, with Mega Evolution. Like our shop, for instance, we got a ton of booster boxes, and we were able to fill all of our orders with the booster boxes. We got maybe we were able to do a King of the Hill, a Grandee, like off rip. We were able to break down like 10
Hmm.
extra booster boxes we had so that we could get single packs out there and stuff. But ETBs, we got 10 ETBs total on
Wow.
release. Brutal. And they all went out for order. We couldn't sell any ETBs in the shop. We didn't have any. And it sucks when you have a bunch of players coming in because a lot of them want the ETBs for the Riolu promo to put in their deck and like the sleeves and the dice and everything. And we have a second wave coming though that's supposed to bring out more ETBs. So now that Pokemon's breaking down their releases in like waves of release products with ancillary products, I don't know if their focus is all on that to where they just kind of have Destined Rivals reprints on the back burner. But I have
Hmm.
to imagine because like you have to remember too they're dropping a Charizard UPC in November that's got Destined Rivals packs. The mini tins from Mega Evolution have one Mega Evolution, one Destined Rivals pack. Like they're just throwing Destined Rivals packs and all these ancillary products as like extra goodies. They just dropped those Destined Rival tins with the Mewtwo, Persian, and Nidoking. So I mean, I don't know if they're just planning on filling in Destined Rivals product to ancillary stuff, or if there will actually be another release of booster boxes and ETBs. But I have to believe by the end of the year they're gonna drop at least one more wave of Destined Rivals. Because like I kind of took over there. I'm sorry, but I want to hear from you, Mike. Do you think that Destined Rivals feels like it was short printed, or that it was just kind of skipped over and forgotten about now that we're on to Mega Evolution?
I think naturally it was based on the time it was released. I don't think it was because of the product, because though they are not playable cards per se, I truly believe that a lot of these Rockets cards are long-term collectible items just because, as I said, we haven't had a lot of Rocket items. Not to mention the artwork, especially when you're starting to look at the Moltres, the Mewtwo, and the Nidoking, are such unique pieces that I think we're going to see a little bit of a, I don't want to say Silver Tempest effect, but honestly, Silver Tempest effect, where you had multiple cards and still do that are very undervalued. Rayquaza was sitting low for a
Yeah.
long, long time.
Yeah,
That
that was
is,
me and you were talking about that. That was like a
yeah,
$40 card for a while. Now it's
it
pushing
was
like
even less than
150.
that at one point.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, you're still sitting with a couple cards in that set. I think the ones that come to mind for me is Unknown and
Unknown.
Superior, where they're just there's no reason they're as low as they are, and they're seeing slow creeps. But you have one big hit out of that set that everybody's like, "Oh, I really want it." And it was even sitting a little bit low for a long time. But
Yeah.
now that it's, it's been a while, uh it it really is starting to see a lot of gain, and I think we're going to see that with Destined Rivals, especially if they're able to get if they continue with what they're doing with throwing basically like a random pack in some of these products where you don't have a big main thing where it's just, oh, here's a bunch of Destined Rival stuff.
Well, that's what's so weird, right? Is that we don't have to wait for Destined Rivals to do it because it's already doing it. The Mewtwo's already $500 guard. Every SIR in that set, even the Crobat, is officially over $100. I shouldn't say every. I don't think the Arven's like up there, or maybe some of the other ones are Ariana. But you know what I mean. Like it doesn't. That's why I'm so perplexed by Destined Rivals, is because we did have to wait for Silver Tempest to do that. We had to wait for Crown Zenith to do that. But Destined Rivals, people are treating like that set's never coming back, and it just dropped in May. It's
I
like a
think
brand new set.
I think part of it is the scarcity of it currently in the market. I think the difference is Crown Zenith flooded the market. Absolutely flooded. When you start looking at the numbers of PSA 10 Giratinas and even the Mewtwo, the numbers of graded 10s and 9s of that card are absurd. For Silver Tempest, I remember when I first started this, you couldn't get rid of the Silver Tempest ETBs. Nobody wanted them. They were in every target, they were all over the place. But I think we're in this weird part of collecting where not only is Destined Rivals not available because nothing's available, Destined Rivals is such an over just sought after set for everybody, I think, because you go in anywhere, the last thing you're going to find is anything Destined Rivals unless it's part of a weird set, which when you start lumping in Destined Rivals with, unfortunately, in my opinion, Journey Together, I think, is an underhyped set. And when you start including Journey Together, where people can readily get that at Walmart, I think
Yeah.
that it really takes away from the box. So when you start having these new boxes come out, like the Mega Venusaur box that has 5 packs of Mega Evolutions and 5 packs of Destined Rivals in it, I think that's going to be one of those boxes that's going to reinvigorate the hype for specialty boxes and premium collections. So I think this is a weird circumstance more than any, just because of the scarcity of availability of Destined Rivals by itself.
Well, see, that's something else I think about too. Is did Pokemon print less, or are they printing the same? It's just a different environment. You know what I mean? Like, was Silver Tempest everywhere and nobody wanted it because Pokemon overprinted it, or was it
Mhm.
there because the scalpers weren't as relevant and nobody really knew what was going on with Pokemon and all the alt arts and illustration? Whereas TCG Pocket wasn't around to be like, yo, you can get these cards in real life, you know. But then as soon as like the scalpers hit Prismatic, is Pokemon still just printing the same? And it's not that nobody wanted Silver Tempest; there just wasn't as much attention or hype about it, and nobody was like the infatuation and scale of growth with Pokemon is astronomical comparatively over like the last 10 years, because regional events, like even the players, there was a regional event in Frankfurt like a month ago, had
Mhm.
more players than Worlds. Like
That's
there's more
crazy.
players at regionals nowadays than people go to NAIC or EUIC. EUIC was in Frankfurt a couple years before that, and they had half as many people at that EUIC as they did at the regional in Frankfurt this year. And it's like it's a culmination of things. We've talked about it before. TCG Pocket drops. right? That reinvigorates a lot of hype. People realize, okay, these cards are sick, and I can actually pick these up. I want to go grab some next time I'm in the store. I'm checking out after I just downloaded Pocket and played it all weekend, and I'm getting my groceries. Oh, there's an ETB on the shelf. I'm gonna grab that and see if I can pull some of these cards. You know, like I
Hmm.
think that was a big part of it. And then Prismatic hit, and then people started realizing that there's some pieces of cardboard out there like the Moonbryon that are $800,000 raw, and now there's a new Moonbryon in this set, and like it's just everything at once just hit. And what's crazier is we talked about how I believed that Mega Evolution would kind of die things down a bit because I didn't think that there was as much hype around Megas, and it's really more of a gimmick like terastallizing and Dynamaxing and all that. It's not really about the Pokemon themselves. But it hasn't. It went the opposite way, brother. $500 for a booster box that just dropped in May, $300 for booster box on release, and it's just like, dude, this is insane. At some point, and I don't want to get into this on this episode because I'm sure we'll talk about this again at some point, but at some point, it's on the consumer to say, I'm not paying these prices anymore. Because as long as people are willing to pay the prices, why would any store, any business owner, anybody lower them?
Right, absolutely. But do you think
You're
that
determining your own MSRP when you decide I'm willing to spend $300 on a booster box. You're saying, okay, it's worth that much to me.
right, absolutely.
And we don't have to get into that. I don't want to make that about because this is you know me, Michael. We'll get into
Yeah.
that. We'll rip into that. But yeah. Anyways,
Do you think we'll call them catalyst events because their outside influences such as Pokemon Go and TCG Pocket are directly correlating? Because I wasn't part of the community whenever Pokemon Go dropped, but I've heard stories that around that time it did start to pick up and a lot of new collectors came in, but I feel like the scarcity of the product wasn't quite as extreme as it is now.
mhm. Yeah. So Pogo did increase traffic through the Pokemon space for sure. But it was a different scenario in the fact that you had the pandemic hit pretty quickly after that, right? Like Pokemon Go was 2016, I think, and like a lot of the pandemic stuff happened a few years after that. Um, so at that point, once the pandemic hit, nobody was going to stores and looking on shelves. Everything was online. So that's where you started getting a lot of these like third party sellers on Amazon and Walmart that started jacking up prices. That's why when you go to Walmart and you try and buy an ETB, even before all this craziness, the ETB was $100 already. That's because you had some third party MJ Holdings crash out that was over there holding on to ETBs and selling them on because you couldn't go to the store and get them. Where else are you gonna get your ETBs?
Right, absolutely.
You know, so that's where all that stemmed with Pogo. With Pocket, for me, the difference is that Pocket is specifically encouraging the dopamine of pack opening,
Absolutely.
right? Like with Pogo, it's different because you're walking around. You have to get off your ass and go walk around if you want to play that game. And if you go do that and you find something in the wild and catch it, sweet. To Pocket, I can spend real money on my app to open 10 packs right now. And when I pull that full art Giratina, I'm going to lose my shit because, man, it looks amazing. And I hit the big chase in the card. Well, what if you do that in real life, right?
Right,
So instead
absolutely.
of opening these packs and spending my money on an app, I want to go open a real pack, pull a real Giratina, and like that incites that to me a lot more than Pogo would personally. I think that's the difference. But as far as outside catalysts go, they're one and the same, and that's designed. It's designed to be that way.
Mhm.
Pokemon did that on purpose. That's not an accident.
Yeah,
The
I'd
timing is
call
just really poor.
the TCG Pockets a success. That the biggest success I've seen that they've had to bring new people into the hobby. As much as I love the fact that they did it, it does make hardcore collectors cringe a little bit. Just because you have a lot of people coming in that don't really know the history of pricing and how this works, and I
Yeah,
think that's part of what's
makes the
driving
players
this
cringe
up.
too.
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
Because
Players
it's like
who
it's not how you play Pokemon. It's like baby Pokemon. You know.
right. But I was more so saying for the increase in value, it has to do with that community getting into collecting the in-person cards because they don't have a reference point of what's acceptable and what's not. So that also is causing a lot of a FOMO for them, I think, because for them, they go on their app, they open their packs, and in a few hours, they get a few more. If you do that in real life, where you open a few packs and you go home and you didn't get what you wanted. What are you going to do? You're going to try and go get more. And or maybe the next day you get some, or you order some online. It's a never-ending cycle of financial ruin for some people, I'd
That's a
imagine.
great point, man. Because a lot of the new faces don't understand that this isn't how it was or how we want it to. Like a lot of people probably did come in here like, damn, I gotta pay $100 for an ETB. Is that normal? Like they don't know, you know. That's a great point. Yeah,
Yeah, so I think once we get into getting these people, most importantly, educated on the history of pricing, I think it can start to alleviate a lot of that FOMO and that money just running straight out of your wallet when there are other options out there. As we've talked about Journey Together being readily available, you're seeing cards from that set be very reasonable. We've talked multiple times about how that Salamence is an unbelievable card. Uh, but in all honesty, if you're looking for cool arts, the Okagi Volcanion for $20 is a bargain.
yeah.
The Ends Reshiram art rare is incredible.
Okagi's
But
Volcanion is an awesome card.
it's a,
He's really climbing my ladder, man.
absolutely.
Okagi did that new Eveltal promo, and or I don't know if it's a promo, but that so it's funny. Sorry, I'm sidetracking. I'm
No,
gushing
go,
over
go.
Okagi here, but the Yveltal, the regular Yveltal art in Mega Evolution, it's got an attack for colorless energy. It just does 20 damage and they can't retreat, right? And so what people are doing is they're taking that card and putting it in Zoroark, and they
Hmm.
get Pecharunt and Monkey Dory, and they'll switch the Yveltal into the active, and it'll poison it, and then they use Monkey Dory to move that damage off the Yveltal to the bench guys while they just trap the opponent's active in the. I'm like, man, these rats out here, bro. These
I
rats
love
be sneaky.
I love how creative the players are getting with different random cards you wouldn't expect them to be uh, as functional as they are. We
Yeah.
see it all the time, and
But
it's
I'm just excited because my boy Yveltal finally got a card that can do something, you know?
by a great artist too.
Buy a Coggy nonetheless. Hell yeah, man. Let's go.
Absolutely. So one of the other things I wanted to talk about is whenever you have these really hyped up cards where they're the top chase of the set, it tends to bring up that Pokemon elsewhere in the community. So I think one of the important things to do is when you start to see a special art rare or even an illustration rare of a card you really like, if it's unaffordable, look back in time and start to try and find some of the alternate arts. So, one of my good examples going back to stamp cards is if you really like the Team Rocket's Moltres by Akira Igawa, you might be able to say, "Oh man, I really love Moltres. That card did a lot for me." There's a good example of an odd alternate art card with the pre-release stamped Moltres from what was that? Chilling Rain? No, that wasn't Chilling Rain. That was the oh, what was that? It was the Sword and Shield set. It had a
Oh, it was a pre-release stamp? Was it Brilliant
yes.
Stars?
Yeah, it's a oh, Brilliant Stars, you're right. Yes, it
Yeah.
was the Brilliant Stars by Shinji Kanda.
Yeah.
It's a card that's not super expensive, but I think it's under $20. It's expensive for a non-full art and traditional chase card, but that card is such a unique artwork that it also inspired me to start to look for a lot of these Cosmos Hollows, alternate art promos, things like that that keep the hobby and love for the hobby alive.
Yeah. Yeah. And it goes both ways. And beyond that, even like there are full arts you can go back and
Hmm.
find. Great example of that. I went and grabbed the Mega Mewtwo X from X and Y for I want to say it was like $60 about 2 months ago, 3 months ago.
Hmm.
And I mean, I had a feeling with the Mega set coming out in fall that Megas might increase in price, so you can kind of predict those kind of things, right? But like, for instance, like that's a full art Mewtwo. I mean, now I know that card is like 100 something dollars, but that's only because the Mega hype like drove it up. But that's an example of a full art Mewtwo from like older sets. Whereas like if you're looking at the Mewtwo from Crown Zenith and you're like, man, that thing's like $200 right now. I
Hmm.
can't get that card, you know? There are like full art Mewtwo's and other Mewtwo cards you can go look at while you wait for the market to cool down. Because even the cards that you see and you're like, man, We're looking at a great example of this is the Mew VMAX from Fusion Strike.
Hmm.
Everybody's like, okay, that card was $70 for the longest time. And then Fusion Strike finally started blowing up, and the Gengar and all that. The Gengar went to the moon. That Mewtwo went, or that Mew VMAX went up to like $200, $220 or whatever, right? Well, after a little while of time, it dropped again, and it came down actually all the way to like 134, which I
Hmm.
know is more than 70, but it did drop again all the way to 134. Now it's back up to 255. This just goes back to that cyclical stuff we're talking about.
Right.
But like that's a great example of waiting till you can't. So like if you look at things like Crown Zenith, same instance with that Mewtwo that's like $200 now, right?
Hmm.
Like we've been waiting all this time for Crown Zenith to go up, just like the Mew VMAX from Fusion Strike. It's gonna come back down. It'll go back down to like 130 again, and then it'll go back up. So you can be patient, and while you're waiting for that Mewtwo to do that cyclical nature and fall back down like the Mew VMAX did, you can go look at some of these other older full arts and take a peek at some of that stuff that a lot of people don't even know about that's out there that's really cool. And like Mike said, you can still enjoy the hobby that way, right? Like you just have to put in the work though. You can't
Right.
just sit there and cry about like cards going up in price that you can no longer afford. Like if you really want to be in the hobby and want to enjoy the art and the cards, you have to go look and see what's out there. You're on your phone 80% of the day anyways, right? Take some time and go take a look. They're out there.
Yeah, I think using certain websites, PokeBeach is wonderful for more modern stuff. But if you just search up, you can search up by artist, you can search up by type of Pokemon, you can find all the arts ever done listed in a list on different websites. And you can just go through and find one that resonates with you, whether it be by Pokemon, as I said, or by artist. And it'll give you the set, it'll give you the number, and I think it's important to just go and look. You might find something you really like for a wonderful price that
Exactly.
is one of those cards that's in your binder that the next person might say, "Oh, what's that? I've never seen that before." With there
Yep.
being so many cards ever printed, it's almost impossible to know all of them at any given point.
Yeah, and that circles back to what I was saying earlier as well, about finding what you vibe with, right? Like, don't worry about the value, man. Value will come later. I tell this story all the time to people about the lovebirds, the Latios lovebirds that make the heart. I've told you this a million times, Mike. Danny Phantom had like thousands of them listed for sale on his website for like $20 a pop. That card is like $1,000 something raw now. So like the value, I'm not saying every card is going to be $1,000 someday, but like $20 cards are out there that may very well be 1,000 someday. Like just you can't think about the value because you can't predict it. There's no way to know. So you just need to get the things that you like and keep in mind that if you like it, there's a good chance that like 80% of everybody else likes it too. And if you're worried about the value, it will get there eventually. If it doesn't, who cares? You have a card that you like and that you vibe with and that you enjoy looking at, and it makes you happy. So that's what you should focus on always.
Yeah, I tell a lot of my friends to go with me to shows to use the apps for tracking prices to get yourself close to the price. But if you see a card that you really like and you say, "Yeah, I'd pay that for it," I think it's best to just go ahead and do it within reason. Like if you really like a card, talk to the vendor, see if there's something you can do on it. See if you can get a good deal. They're looking to get a good deal, you're looking to get a good deal. Most vendors will meet you in the middle and you'll end up with the card versus an hour later when you're driving home thinking, "Oh man, I really should have grabbed that." And then you never see the card again for 5, 10 years.
Yeah, it's happened to all of us, right?
All right, everyone, that's our time for today. Thank you all for being here, and thanks, Captain Jack, for being part of this podcast. We're going to be back next week, talk about a couple different things. Keep your eyes out. We'll post some teaser videos and everything else, but absolutely remember that if you take anything from this episode, make sure that you do not worry about the trends. You worry about what you like.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Mike. It was a pleasure. I'll catch you next week.
Catch you next week, guys.